This is Truck and Talk, the podcast that gives you an inside look at the people, ideas, and operations moving Mesilla Valley transportation forward. I'm your host, Stephanie Valle, and today we're diving into a part of the MBT family that plays a huge role in keeping freight flowing across the country and across the border. We're talking all things Verde Logistics, the non-asset brokerage that sits right at the heart of the MBT ecosystem. And joining us is someone who knows this business inside and out. Its strategy, its culture, its challenges, and its future. Holly Jones, the president of Verde Logistics. Holly, welcome to Truck and Talk.
Thank you so much for having me.
So before we jump into the main conversation, we're going to do a quick detour called Fuel for Thought. This is our new segment where we bring you something happening in the trucking industry right now, and it's industry relevant and it's future-proof, but to get our guest perspective. So are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
I'm sure you are. So 2025 is shaping up to be a major year for nearshoring and cross-border manufacturing. So from your seat, are you seeing real volume increase at the border, or is the buzz louder than the actual freight?
That's a really good question. And I really think it depends on where you have your market. So for me particularly, I have not seen all the buzz that I've been hearing or that I've been reading. So it's been steady. I would say it's been no busier than 2024.
Okay. So Verde Logistics launched in 2009, right in the middle of a massive economic recession. Most companies were shutting down, but you opened one. So what was the strategy behind launching Verde during such a tough economic cycle?
You said 2009. I feel really old now. So, oh man, in 2009, I think I was still just a kid. I was in my 20s. And I remember when we first started going after customers, I had a very mousy voice. I was very young and very immature, and people didn't take me seriously. And so, yes, it was risky to start a business, but we had, so it was my dad who actually came up with the plan. He had certain customers that he could just not get in with. They're like, no, we don't want to work with you. We already have enough, blah, blah, blah. We're looking for minority carriers because a lot of customers had this minority spend that they needed to reach. They wanted to give opportunities to historically underutilized businesses. And he's like, Holly, because me, I didn't want to work for my dad. I didn't want to be in transportation whatsoever. I wanted to do my own thing. I probably wanted to be a rock star. I still might want to be that. So, yeah, I still have a while. I'm still young-ish. I tell everybody I'm 40 fun. That's it. It's just 40 fun.
I'm going to take that, Holly.
Thank you. So he's like, he's like, you're Hispanic. And I was like, well, yeah. He's like, and you're female. And I was like, yeah, check, check. He's like, did you know that there are large companies who want to give you their business? He's like, they don't want to give it to me. He's like, they want to work with people like you. So I used to work at a company called Verde Logistics, which you guys might be familiar with. So I had a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of background in that. And he's like, if you started your own brokering company, you could partner up with me. I can help you. And at first I was like, I really don't want to be in transportation. Like I've done that before. And he's like, just give it a try. Let's have this idea. So we had one customer, Johnson Controls. And I remember I flew out to, I think it was Michigan, to meet with them. And I went to a minority conference. And I learned about this program on how you can get certified as a minority business and how it could just open up doors. And I thought it was all BS. I went up there and I was like, this isn't real. This is just a... And lo and behold, I ended up getting certified both as a female and as a minority. And Johnson Controls opened up their door. I started off with one lane. I remember it was Miami going to San Antonio around once a week. And I was so diligent with that lane. I made sure that we picked up, we delivered on time. I asked them if they ever needed more. And then that opened up more doors with them. And then we started doing El Paso to, I want to say it was Georgia. And then it was El Paso to here. Then it was Juarez to there. And then word of mouth, it led me to another customer, which was Delphi. And then Delphi came Molly. So being a minority and a woman-owned business and having that program, that's what really set us apart, especially during 2009 when other people weren't doing so well. They were opening up the door for minority companies.
So in your words, when you thought it was BS, what was it that you thought was not real, and what was the myth that was busted for you? What was the truth?
You guys might not like this answer. And I remember one time, this guy over here behind the camera, he was interviewing me, and I was like, if I answer this, it's gonna come off raw. So if you edit this out, that's fine. Because I thought, and I still kind of believe this to this day, that I think it should be equal opportunity. I don't think it should be because you are a certain race or a certain gender or anything like that. I think you should be hired based on your qualifications. I'm thankful for the program. I really am, because it did give me the opportunity and it opened the door for me. But at the end of the day, I think that even if I opened up just a regular brokerage company, I just would have had to do the work and prove that I'm good enough. And I think that's really what it nails down to, is just being qualified.
Yeah, which you clearly are.
Oh, thank you.
So your father, you've mentioned him, and he's very familiar with everybody here, Royal Jones. He built MVT from one truck to an entire enterprise. So growing up around that, what is the single most important lesson about trucking survival that you still use today at Verde?
Oh, well, he's given me a lot of tools, a lot of tools. And that man is just, you know, men like that don't come around very often. Like, I feel very blessed that I got to be raised by someone like him. But he always taught me and my sister and my brother to strive to be the best. Don't just be mediocre. Don't just settle for C's. Like, you need to strive to be the best in everything that you do. And so I am very type A personality where I do like things to line up properly. And I notice if I'm not that good at something, it's okay, but I will work on it and I'll become better. And I think the number one thing that he taught us was, you don't have to be an expert at everybody or everything, but you can find people who are experts, treat them well, pay them well, show them love, and you guys are both going to grow. And I think he really has that mentality about win-win, because when they win, he wins.
Yeah, that's great. You operate in a unique space, the agility of a smaller brokerage, but connected to the enormous scale of MVT. How do you balance those two worlds?
It's hard. It's really hard. I love being right inside MBT, because if I need an answer, like, yes, we have email, we have instant messaging, I can pick up the phone, but there's nothing like a face-to-face conversation, because sometimes I need people to see the urgency in my face and know that, hey, this is important. We need to get it done. And through an email, you can only type in all caps so many times and yell at people. Not that I yell at anybody.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. I don't yell, but it is nice having that. And so how do I balance it? Sometimes I get a little frustrated, to be honest, because a lot of people assume that I work for MBT. So Verde Logistics is a completely separate company. I don't work for MBT. So sometimes people ask me questions, or they'll say, hey, do you think we can do this? Or do you think we can start this program? And I'm like, that's a great idea, but I have no say here. And so I try to really tell people, like, I have no say here. I just rent space here. I work here, but I'm not working for you guys.
Yeah. So Verde is a non-asset brokerage, but you are, like you said, physically located inside the MVT terminal. So how does seeing the trucks and drivers every day change the way that you broker the freight?
That's a great question. I'll probably take this a little bit more personal, but I meet a lot of drivers. So, obviously, I have to get to the gab. I love to talk. So when I go to the cafeteria, or if I go to Driver Appreciation Day, I like to get to know people. But then it kind of put something in me, and this is from personal experience. I remember I met this couple, and they were a team. It was a husband and a wife, and they're so wonderful, such good people. They were the kind that would bring you a donut, bring you a coffee. They'd stop by the office and say hi. And I remember I went out to dinner with them, and I'd mentioned something, and she says, you know what? I'm going to go and I'm going to pray for you. And I was like, wow, thank you. She's like, no, I'm going to pray for you right here and now. She's like, sometimes we tell people, I'm going to pray for you, and then we forget about it. We have good intentions, but we don't go through with it. She's like, so when I say I'm going to pray for you, she literally prayed for me right then and there. And that taught me a valuable lesson, that there's wholesome people in these trucks. They are really, really good people. And it reminds me that they're not just truck numbers, and they're not just some drivers that are moving my loads. These are families. These are wives, brothers, mothers. And so I really care about them. So if there's a snowstorm and they want to shut down because they think it's dangerous, by all means, I care about your life.
Wow, that is really moving. Thank you for sharing that story. One of your biggest competitive advantages is access to MBT's trailer pool, over 7,000 trailers. So how do you leverage that to create drop and hook solutions for your clients?
That's actually a great question. I like these questions. So, that's honestly, I'm gonna talk about Home Depot, and Home Depot has a lot of drop freight, and you have to have these trailer pools to be able to sustain it. So, as a broker, you might have 10 different carriers, but you can only get so many trailers out of each one, where I've got MBT in my back pocket and we've got 7,000 trailers. How many do you need? So it's been a really good sales tool for me.
Well, we're going to talk more about Home Depot in a little bit,
Oh, good.
but I want to talk about something that shippers always worry about, which is load failures. So if a partner carrier falls off a load, do you actually have the ability to dispatch an MBT asset to rescue it?
I do, but I wouldn't.
Okay.
So even though that sounds like a great fix, it's not a fast, quick, and it's not an easy fix. And it's not a, I guess you're going to spend some money because then you're going to have, it's on somebody else's trailer. You're going to have to take it to a warehouse somewhere else. You're going to have to transload it. It's going to take time. It's going to take money. And you could have just repaired the truck that broke down in the same amount that it would have taken um, to transload that truck. I
Yeah.
hope that makes sense.
It sounds a lot like you really have instilled a lot of boundaries as your own business, but I know that you had said you don't want to work for your dad. So it almost seems like there are two things going on there where you're like, I don't want to step on this just because not only do I work physically in MBT, but I also don't want to abuse that privilege of being Royal Jones's daughter and using
Yes.
these assets that I have. Is that right?
That's true, and I think and maybe it's just my own I wouldn't wanna call them insecurities, but I always try to make sure that people don't think that I could just do whatever I want because I'm Earl Jones's daughter, because 'cause I'm not like that. I try very much so to be humble and to do things the right way.
Yeah. So Verde started by hauling just-in-time automotive freight. How did learning in that high-pressure environment shape your operations today?
I learned how to wake up on time. Definitely, so I remember my first lane, it was an automotive JCI lane, and you have to be on your game because they need their stuff when they need it and they need it now. And if you are a minute late, that clock starts running and they start getting charged. And then they're going to call you, they're going to text you, they're going to send smoke signals. And so I learned how to kind of be proactive in these events. So, one, how to start getting up early and getting to work not on time, but early.
Yeah.
So have you heard that thing like if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, you're lost.
We've yeah. So you said JCI, what is that?
Johnson Controls.
Okay, great. So, yes, that is a good lesson to be on time and all of those things. There are predictions of freight slowdowns and tariff pressure this coming year. Are you seeing shippers change behavior, maybe increasing warehousing or shifting their routes?
I haven't seen any of that yet on my end, but I did hear from a little birdie, one of my customers who I shall not name, that said, "Holly, you better get ready." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "We're gonna start getting really strict. Fuel's getting better, and these carriers need to start charging us less. So you better sharpen your pencil and tighten up for this next national truckload bid. It's gonna be competitive. It's gonna be that." And if I'm being honest, I hear that every year. I hear it every year from the customers, and I think transportation is a roller coaster. You got to ride the waves. Sometimes it's going to be in our favor, and sometimes it's going to be in the customer's favor. And so you just have to be able to sustain, think smart, and plan ahead, so that way you can always go with those rips and tights.
I guess would it be fair to say that when you hear those warnings, it's always just a good reminder to be diligent about what
Mhm.
you're doing?
Yes, and I always try to remind my customers as well. You get what you pay for. So yes, let's say it turns in their favor and they're able to book their loads for dirt cheap rates. You get what you pay for. So if you book a dirt cheap rate with the dirt cheap carrier, you're probably going to have a lot of problems. Whereas if you pay a premium white glove service, you're going to be well taken care of. You're not going to see lates. You're not going to see people fail. You're going to see on-time service.
You work heavily with trailer interchange agreements. So why is keeping freight in the same trailer, no transloading, safer and faster for customers?
So that kind of goes back to the other question where you asked about, maybe using an MBT asset if somebody else fails. So a lot of times, the more you touch that freight, the more you handle it, the more it's susceptible of something going wrong. Then you're going to be looking at overages, shortages, damages because you have to physically move it. And then sometimes freight is a little bit, I wouldn't say it's fragile, but like I said, every hand that touches it is a risk. So, yeah, that also slows down the whole transportation system. If you have to transload, you got to put it in a warehouse, it has to sit, and then another trailer has to come in. It's just a lot of work. And so it makes customers much more happy and have peace of mind when it's just on one trailer cross border.
Mm. AI platforms like Zarin are becoming more common. Where do you see technology helping brokerage operations, and where does human expertise still matter?
So I don't have a lot of expertise or experience with AI, but I have a little bit. I do use ChatGPT on the regular, especially when I have to answer an email where I'm not too happy. If I sound angry, I'll throw it in ChatGPT and say, make me sound nice but firm. So, but what I've seen on my end with AI is we've actually been using a bot system. And so before, like back in my COVID days, I used to make the most money off of doing these load boards, and you would have to like comb through them, find the loads, put in a spot quote. And for me, it was like a little video game. So every time I got an email that I got a load, to me, it was like a ding, like a dollar. So I'm like, all right, all right. I started getting more competitive. And then I noticed, I was like, hey, why are these other carriers getting more loads? And I used to be really good at this game because they got bots to do that work for them. So instead of having a human sit there and sort through, these computer systems just go in there. They already know what your rates want to be. They know you have capacity. So they do it for you. And so that's where I've seen it on my end, where I don't have to have an actual person sitting there and watching these. I just have a system that does it for me.
Yeah.
So where the human aspect comes in is sometimes computers are not the smartest, or AI. They're smart, don't get me wrong, but they're not street smart.
Yeah. It's efficiency, I think, that they provide. Feels like it.
They do provide efficiency, but sometimes there's something that the human eye and the human heart can see that an AI won't.
Right. So you handle major accounts. You mentioned Home Depot, also Nissan. How do you stay agile while meeting the strict compliance and data requirements that those companies need?
Oh, they have a lot of requirements, a lot. And honestly, you just have to be very diligent. So whenever we are bidding on anything, I try to look at their SOPs. I try to, or their statement of works, and just be like, okay, this is going to be a very finicky customer with a lot of regulations, with a lot of this, a lot of that. How much time is that going to take a person? And that's going to go into your pricing. Because if you're just rating it like you would rate any other load, but it's going to take a lot of, human work, a lot of data, and you probably need to put a little increase on that so that it's worth the time.
Okay. For shippers who want the security of a large asset carrier and the flexibility of a broker, how does the Verde plus NVT model bridge that gap?
So, what's good about us is, let's say we're using MBT primarily and they're doing the majority of the freight, but there's a little bit extra available. Whenever you have a broker, we can give that out to other well qualified carriers. So, it's good to partner with both of us because you're going to get the best of both worlds. You're going to get the asset fill, but whenever you have a little bit extra, you're going to have that brokerage ability.
And you've said that you get emotional giving MVT or watching MVT give away cars to drivers.
Every time, every time. So I always try to figure out who the winner is like beforehand. Although
Oh,
that's okay. That's where I do kind of use my, okay, tell me who the winner is. Okay. So I like seeing the expression on their face because usually they don't know it's them. They know that they're good, that they have good MPGs, but they don't know it's them. And it's honestly, it's like watching, I don't know if you guys remember those shows where people, they get like a brand new house or something and they're just so grateful. I see that in the driver's eyes because I don't think I could ever be a driver. One, I'm not that great of a driver. And two, I don't like long distance. And three, I have to go to the bathroom all the time. So I would not be a good driver. So knowing that they do that and they're not seeing their families, they're always out on the road, they probably get treated like dirt. In that moment, they are the hero. And they're recognized. They're finally seen. They're not just another number, another truck out there. They are an actual human and they were the best at what they did and they get this award and they get to share it with their family.
it sounds kind of like the same emotional reward that you get when you interact with the drivers. And
Yes,
yeah, it helps you make these decisions that you're making.
absolutely.
Wow. So, what is the hardest decision that you've had to make as president of Verde during the last freight cycle?
Oh, I have five.
Well,
I'll
we
keep it
have
to
time.
one.
You can take the top two if you want.
Um, some of the hardest decisions I have to make, and this has been not just this year, but it's been, like I said, that roller coaster when you got to ride the waves.
Mhm.
Is whenever I have to let people go, not necessarily because they were not doing a good job. It was just because we don't have the work for them. So I think that's one of my hardest things to do. Even whenever they do let themselves go, I have a hard time letting them go. I always think of them as humans, maybe they are giving me their best, but their best isn't just cutting it, but I see that they're trying so hard and I know they have a family to feed and they have a car payment and a house payment. The last thing I want to do is, thank you for your time, but you're no longer going to work for us. That is like the worst thing. But I'm in business, so it's something that I have to do and I have gotten better at it. But I will admit that whether it's been a pardoning because I needed them to get out because they weren't doing their job, or because we just, needed a reduction in force, I cry every time.
Mm.
Yeah, it really stresses me out. So anybody who works in human resources or who's a manager and has to deal with that day to day, I hats off to you if you can do that without it letting affect you.
Yeah. It's important though, isn't it?
It
That
is.
way you make these decisions with a sound mind, right?
Yes. Sometimes I wish my heart wouldn't control my mind so much. I really have to separate those two and say, okay, no, this is a logical decision. This is not an emotional decision.
Hmm. So, looking ahead, we're recording this at the end of 2025. Do you have a professional goal for 2026?
I do, and it's not necessarily in this industry. I do.
Do you want to disclose it or are you going to hold off?
I've learned that whenever it comes to my personal goals, that I no longer share them publicly.
Mm,
One, so that way I know this is just for me and this is just something that I'm going to do.
yeah, that's good. Well, hopefully, this you will disclose. Looking ahead,
Okay.
do you plan to acquire assets under the Verde name or remain non asset and rely on MBT's fleet?
I love all your questions. So, I actually considered this. I want to say it was about 10 years ago. I called Jackie and I was like, what if we got our own truck? And she's like, "What do we need a truck for? We have MBT." And I said, "Well, no, wouldn't it be so cool if we got our own truck, but it would be a local truck because we have a lot of local pickups in Laredo and in El Paso." I said, "And sometimes MBT's local P&D, they get so caught up because they have a lot of local pickups too." I said, "If we had our own truck and our own driver and we could make our own pickups and it has our logo on it." And so she's the brains.
I was going to ask
Yeah.
you who's Jackie.
So Jackie's my sister. She's also our CFO, and I call it the AKA CF no. She tells me no a lot. So I have the ideas, and she kind of has more of like the logic and how are things going to work out financially. And she's like, you're going to have to hire a driver. We're going to have to pay insurance on the truck. We're going to have to pay insurance on the trailer. We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to. And so after she kind of wrapped all those things around my mind, I was like, yeah, I think we're good where we are. So I think non-asset, it is less risky because also too, remember, I'm emotional. If there's a driver behind one of my trucks and something happens to them, I'm probably not going to take it very well.
Okay. Well, you grew up around trucking,
Yeah.
but when did you know that logistics was absolutely your path?
I don't I want to say I was fresh out of high school and it wasn't necessarily logistics. I think it was more of like a sales thing. So I worked for J.H. Rose and they put me on this thing where I would call carriers and I would get them to sign up for quick pay. That means that we would pay them as soon as they delivered the load. They wouldn't have to wait 30 days, but we would keep 10%. And I was like, nobody's going to sign up for that. Like 10%'s a lot. So Dean Rigg told me, he's like, for every carrier you get to sign up, I'll give you $100. Well, I got a lot. So, so that's when I kind of knew that I actually like doing numbers games. I like winning. It doesn't necessarily mean that I like winning in brokering or, in something else. I just like to win. So if there's a goal and I know what the incentive is, I'm going to do it.
That's good advice also for maybe high schoolers or people in college who they don't really know about logistics. It's like, no, do you like to win?
Yeah,
Right?
and so, another thing I love to do is accessorials. I call myself the accessorial queen. It's something that I'm good at because I can just pick up all these extra little things like, "Oh, you know what? You held my driver over 2 hours. It was 2 hours and 5 minutes, and yes, I'm gonna nickel and dime you," because those nickels and dimes add up at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So that's something I really like working on.
So detention is a driver quality of life issue. So how does your team advocate for drivers when a shipper delays them other than nickel and diming them?
So what I've noticed when I nickel and dime customers or when they see like, oh my gosh, here's Holly again asking for more detention, they're going to get with their shippers and they're going to get with their consignees and they're going to say, we're tired of hearing from Holly. We're tired of hearing all these emails that you guys are holding. And so what I've noticed is that shippers and consignees that hold their drivers a little bit too long, they hear from me too much, they improve and they get more efficient and they turn our trailers and our drivers around faster.
So nickel and diming does work.
It does. Think about that one pesky person that just like always wants to bother you. You're like, oh, let me just deal with them so I can just get rid of them. That's who I am.
So Verde means green. So beyond SmartWay, what is the next step in sustainability for your company? Electric, hydrogen, or something else?
So let's talk about first the origins of why we are Verde. And so when we were in the works of starting up the company, remember we were going to be female and minority owned. And I was looking at Jackie and the guy, Scott Webb, who's helping us at the time. And they're like, what words call to you? And I was like, well, I want it to sound Hispanic. I want it to sound like the area that I'm from. He's like, okay, well, what do you like? And I was like, well, I love Mother Nature. I like nature. I was like, and I love money. And he was like, verde. And I was like, green. I was like, that's it. So as far as sustainability and moving to the future, we don't print anything. If I do print something, I'm probably just printing a school lunch menu for my kids. But we try to do everything electronically. We try to just really have efficiency. And efficiency is what's going to keep us going because it keeps costs down.
Yeah, which is why I'm sure you also like working with MBT because
I too.
they work so well with sustainability and gas mileage and fuel
So
economy.
my dad trained my brother, my sister, and myself on fuel mileage long ago. I think I was 15 and he was actually teaching Jackie how to drive. She wasn't doing so hot. So I was like, little sister, give me a turn. So he's teaching us about fuel efficiency, but we didn't know what he was teaching us back then. But he taught us this goldfish trick. So if we're driving with him, he's like, there's an imaginary goldfish bowl right here on the dash. Don't spill the water. So if you mash on the gas, the goldfish is going to fall out. If you take a turn too fast, the goldfish is going to fall out. So I've known about efficiency since I was young. Even when he goes to Walmart, I like to shop around. Okay. I like to take my time and I go from this aisle to that aisle and then back to this aisle where he's like, you have to have a plan. He's like, you know what groceries you're going to get and you map it out and you go in that order so you spend less time in the store. And I'm like, you're a total dude. I'm a total chick. I'm totally going to spend way too much time in the makeup center. Okay.
Well, Holly, thank you so much for joining us on Truck and Talk today. It's just been very enlightening talking to you, and it's been a lot of fun. And I hope you had a lot of fun as well.
I did have fun.
Wonderful. And also, just want to add that your story and leadership and commitment to the Verde way is inspiring, and it also gives our listeners a real understanding of how powerful the MBT family is when every piece works together. So, for anyone listening who wants to learn more about freight solutions through Verde, driver opportunities, or the MVT network, you can visit m-v-t.com. I'm Stephanie Valle, and until next time, stay safe, stay sharp, and keep on trucking.